All right, welcome everybody. Yes, good to see everybody chatting. This is awesome. This is what these events are meant to accomplish, is that interaction, connection, introduction, fantastic. Grab your cereal if you haven't yet. We've got some good choices out there. And if there's ever a cereal you would like to see at this event, let us know, let Trey know. He's back there doing registration. He's happy to take your cereal questions, recommendations, choices. Well, welcome. If we have not met, my name is Sam Davidson. I'm the CEO here at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. Welcome. This is the second time we've done this event, but it is now a monthly series called Cereal with a Cereal. So if you're new to the EC, anybody, this is your first time in the building? Great, couple folks, fantastic. I love seeing that. The Nashville Entrepreneur Center exists to help make Nashville the best place to start and grow a business by increasing the likelihood of success for entrepreneurs. And so we do that in a variety of ways, but one way we do that is what you'll see today, which is creating connections through community. So our Cereal with a Cereal series is intended to help share those stories. So each month we have a different guest who talks about ups, downs, all-arounds of their business success, but also their business failure as well. We do events at least or around once a week here. And so this is made possible through our community partnership with Dell. And we're going to have a quick word from Dell to show we appreciate their community partnership and helping us make these happen.
That's ready to scale up. So, what's your game plan? It's nurturing the ideas that drive you with critical expertise from startup tech advisors. It's empowering your brainstorms and breakthroughs with top technology powered by Windows 11 Pro that allows you to follow your vision and share your story. It's maintaining a stop-at-nothing attitude as you manage it all with the confidence of a strong partnership supporting you. Are you ready to get growing? Join Dell for Startups today.
So we appreciate Dell's partnership. They have solutions, resources, help just for startups. So if you are in that startup phase and think technology is something you'll think about later, allow us to connect you with them to help you figure that stuff out. So Lauren's the best point of contact. She can connect you with them over there. And then also real quick, a thank you to our growth partners. And so in banking, that is Pinnacle Financial Partners, and accounting at CLA, and our newest technology partner is RJ Young. So these are folks who help us help you. And so if you, whatever stage your business is at right now, if you have questions about banking, accounting, or technology, again, allow us to connect you with these partners. These are the subject matter experts. In addition to this, we have over 100 advisors in our advisor network. And so if it's a subject not covered up here or something you're wondering after today's conversation, again, allow us to, as part of your membership here, to connect you with that mentor to walk you through particular steps and what's going on. Now, let's have our conversation. So I'm going to ask Chris Thomas to come on up. Come on up, Chris. Turn that on. Yes, round of applause for you. You can clap. You can clap. Thank you. Good. Oh. So
it's okay to applaud, guys.
Yes, it's okay to clap for Chris. So I've known Chris for a while, and I'm going to do this real quick because it's close to here. So Crema Coffee Shop, just a block over. It was like 2013, 14, 15. I don't know what it is. But I get an email from this guy named Chris, and he's like, we should get a coffee. I think we're doing similar things. And I was like, no, my business is the only one that's doing this thing. And at the time, I had started a monthly subscription box company that was shipping Nashville products. So I get this email from this guy named Chris, and he has this company called Made South. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And Chris was sending out quarterly subscription boxes of products made around the southern U.S. And I was like, well, maybe we are doing something similar. And what was so cool about Chris and that outreach and that meeting, I think, is also indicative to Nashville and Nashville entrepreneurship, in that I was extremely friendly, extremely cordial, and we even thought of ways that we might be able to help each other. And then, lo and behold, 10 years later, here we are, because Chris has gone on to do lots of other things, which we'll talk about. But that was one of my earliest memories of Chris. So, a little walk down memory lane. Thanks for indulging me. But look, Chris, introduce yourself to us. Tell us sort of what you do now, how you might intro yourself, and then I'm going to ask you questions. We're going to go farther back.
Yeah, it's a great question, Sam. And it's a complicated answer. I have been a full-time entrepreneur for nearly 10 years. I left my comfortable corporate job on February 14th, 2014. So that's my wife's birthday. We had circled it on the calendar, and I had known for some time that, like, this thing was growing inside me, and I needed to leave kind of the comfort and security of where I was and try to go build something. I had no idea what that was, and so I just figured it out over 6 months. I circled the date on the calendar, and when that date came around, I took the leap. and I haven't looked back, and I have not regretted it. But over that time, it's been mostly kind of a product-based business. I love the South. I love the American South, our slowness, our culture, our people, our food. And so I wanted the brand to kind of focus on shining a spotlight on those makers and artisans and chefs and artists and distilleries who I feel like are creating really good things in our region. And so we did that through the form of the subscription box. I mean, by the way, are you so happy to be out of that business?
Yeah, inventory is a nightmare. So
inventory is a nightmare.
Even though I love cool products and seeing cool stuff and
Yes.
love helping product-based entrepreneurs, my first advice is usually like, can you make this into software? Because
Yeah.
warehousing
Yeah.
and shipping and boxes. I remember pitching
terrible.
one of
Terrible.
the first investors we pitched to. He said, "I like the idea, but it involves too many humans."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh, man.
okay, I mean, robots are expensive, so I don't know what you want me to do.
I'm so grateful to be out of that. But that is how we got our start as a subscription box business. It evolved a little bit kind of in year two, where a friend of mine came to me and said, hey, I think there's an event that we could do that would gather these makers and these artisans together and invite guests in from the community and really from the region to come meet these people face to face, look them in the eye, hear their story, connect with them, see what they're selling, and actually purchase from them, because we're all about small business and supporting those who are trying to create their own thing. So we did that for many years, still do operate an annual event in the Franklin area that, we had our last event in November, 3,500 people. It was fantastic. Came from all around the country, 25 different states. People traveled in to come to that event. So that's a fun event we continue to do. But then as I got deeper into it, there were more opportunities that were opened up. So I think back kind of my first entry into the Eli Mason brand that we now operate. It was a guy named Luke Duncan who had started it. I had befriended him, kind of fallen in love with this brand. Eli Mason, by the way, is a cocktail mixer brand that's made here in Nashville, and we distribute it throughout the country to our customers who love the brand. And so Luke came to me and said, hey, I've got this really great product, but man, I'm struggling. And there were a lot of reasons for kind of why he was struggling. And he wanted to go back to kind of that safety and security of a 9-to-5 job, and he was looking for someone to take over the brand. And I loved the product. I loved the brand. And I saw an opportunity to kind of purchase that from him, and so we've spent many years turning that around to where it's a decent, healthy, profitable small business. So that's been fun. And then I've just been sucked into different things. I mean, these stickers that are laying on your tables, which I hope you guys will take home. I just grabbed some from the office real quick on my way over. But a buddy of mine and I had just a wild idea to start a sticker business a few years ago, and we just wanted to create fun, colorful, high-quality stickers that kind of celebrate the Southern words and phrases and colloquialisms that we heard our grandfathers say growing up. And so Bless Your Heart is our #1 bestseller, Dadgummit, That Dog'll Hunt, silly things like that. And we just started it, we just thought this will be fun. We could slap them on our truck, and it'll be a fun hobby. But that thing has exploded. We're in more than 2,000 retail locations across the country. Dollywood is one of our biggest customers. We do a ton of exclusive work for Dollywood and her brand. And so that's been fun. But then now, as I'm thinking about my next 10 years coming up just in a couple of weeks, I've really had to sit down and think, am I, because by the way, I've been the sole operator on every single thing we've done, which 6 months ago, I was stressed out. I'm spreading my time very thinly across these different projects. And none of those brands was getting my best. None of those brands was getting my fresh ideas, fresh energy. I was just putting out fires all the time, or processing orders, which, processing orders is better than putting out fires. But none of those were getting my best. So we've transitioned a little bit now where we're looking for good people to champion these brands full time and give them their all and their best effort. And then I am moving into this season where I feel a calling to walk alongside other entrepreneurs and kind of encourage them, advise them, ask maybe what might seem to be dumb questions, or maybe thought-provoking questions that get them clarity on where they're at and where they're trying to figure out where to go. And I have a book inside me that I'm terrified to write, but I've started sitting down for a couple of hours a week and actually getting the ideas out, and I'm excited about this next season.
Thank you. That's awesome. And you all be thinking of questions. There will be a part of this where you get to ask Chris questions. Let's start kind of at the beginning. You mentioned that you were at a day job up until 10 years ago, but even earlier, Did you have entrepreneurial role models growing up? Who was the first entrepreneur you can remember? Was that a thing talked about in your house, a thing you studied? What kind of early days of Chris up through, schooling before you started working? What did that look like? What did that feel like for you?
I grew up very blue collar, right down the road, about 20 minutes north of here in Robertson County. And my father, I remember him walking out on a job and never going back. He worked for the Tennessee Valley Authority, and he's an angry man, so that's a whole different conversation. But he stormed out of a job, and he never looked back. He did make his living as a carpenter, as a mechanic, as a renovator, a painter. I mean, he did pretty much anything he could to not go back to that 9 to 5. Now, there were maybe some unhealthy reasons that he was doing that, but I did grow up seeing that modeled in the home, and that Dad was out there making his own way, making sure that we had enough food on the table. So he was kind of my first role model for letting me see that there was a different way to do it. Maybe he wasn't doing it the best way, but I did see there was an alternative to this 9 to 5 grind that I feel like a lot of us fall into.
And then, so growing up, you saw that, and then early career. What did you do? What skills did you maybe learn that, looking back, maybe are serving you now? Lessons you saw in your previous sort of life or career.
When I dropped out of college, 21 hours away from a finance degree. I hated college. It was not for me. And my cousin, who lives in Dallas, ran a promotional products business that had an office in Dallas and an office here. And she said, Chris, I think you can be good at sales. You like to talk to people. You're relational. And so I would love to give you an opportunity to sit at a desk in my office and try to learn from me how to go do this. And God bless her, I was the worst employee ever. I was just terrible. I was young, I was stupid, I was immature, and I didn't realize the opportunity that she was giving me. The one thing that came from that is when my wife and I were engaged, I had been fairly stupid with money. I was trying at the time on the side to make my living as a golf pro. So I was moonlighting as a golf pro at a local golf course, teaching kids how to swing a golf club. And I was terrible with money. And when we got engaged, I think I made $22,000 that year. And I had opened up a Cabela's credit card because I liked to duck hunt. And I went and ran up $7 or $8 grand in duck hunting equipment. I mean, a shotgun and the waders and the boots and all the good stuff. And my mom, who was in banking her entire life, she was one of the first employees that Pinnacle ever hired. And she said to me when we got engaged, Chris, you are terrible with money. I was like, okay, Mom, I've heard this before. And she said, I want you and Kimberly, who's my wife now, I want you to go see this man, Dave Ramsey, in Louisville, Kentucky. He's going to do an event there. And so she gave us 4 tickets, and we invited a couple that we were friends with. We left on a Saturday morning. We drove up to the Palace in Louisville, Kentucky, and we saw him, and then we turned around and drove back, and it blew my mind. I could not believe how this message was resonating inside me. And so I did go back to my desk at Imagination Specialties. I'm not even sure if they're around anymore. And I sat at my desk that following Monday, and I wrote a letter, and I put some knickknacks in a box, a coffee mug, a logo pin, a button, things like that. And I found Dave Ramsey's office address, and I mailed this box to him. And a month went by, and I didn't hear anything. And so I was like, man, I just can't stop thinking about this. So I wrote another letter, and I put more things in that box, and I sent that box to his office. And I didn't hear from him again for another 30 days. And then I sent a third letter and a third box. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but whatever I said worked. And my phone rang one day, and he said, hey, this is Dave Ramsey. And I thought, oh, my gosh, what am I going to do? And he said, you may not be any good, but you're really persistent. And so what I'm going to do is connect you with a guy on my team. His name is Bill Hampton. Talk to Bill, and you guys figure it out. And so he was kind enough to connect me with Bill. They did become a customer of mine. I worked with them for about 6 months trying to find creative ways to kind of get their message out there. And then one day when I was at their office working on a project, they offered me a job. And that just absolutely blew me away. Again, no college degree, not really good at what I'm doing, but they saw something and gave me an opportunity that genuinely changed my life. And so I spent the next 12 plus years with Dave, but I think back to that, like the only thing I did right was not give up. I just persisted. I kept going after who I wanted to work with, but in a kind way, and it did pay off.
And so then what did you do for when you were on payroll at Ramsey? What did you do there?
Yeah, I led our national advertising department. So when I started, we were on maybe 50 to 75 radio stations across the country. So we reserved some of that advertising time for our national partners, the Zander Insurances of the world, Churchill Mortgage, some of those companies that we started working with back in that time. And then as the company grew, so obviously we added more radio stations so that advertising became more valuable, but we also expanded into live events. We created a video channel. We started doing podcasts. We began leveraging the website, which was getting a lot of eyeballs each month. So any property that the company could leverage for national relationships that weren't our own brands, those are the relationships I worked with.
And that's the job you circled on the calendar. I got to get out of this.
Yeah.
It's too good to be true.
I'm still convinced to this day I had the best job in that building. I worked directly with my leader, who for all intents and purposes was the chief executive for Dave's company. They gave me a lot of freedom. They gave me a lot of autonomy to do the business the way I wanted to. I operated my own P&L. I didn't have a team. I didn't have an assistant. I was a lone wolf, and I really prided myself on that. Looking back, I think that was kind of foolish. But in that period of life, I didn't want accountability. I didn't want weekly meetings. Just let me go make the sales. Let me build the relationships, and everything will be fine. And it did work really well, and I was really good at it. The problem became that I knew the day Dave hired me, I told him at some point, I know I'm going to have to go do something for myself. I've always known it. And I think you either know it or you don't. You're either called to this life or you're not. But I'll never forget it. He said, hey, I'm great with that. Until you can figure out what it is, let's get you some skills. Maybe you can learn some things, gain some wisdom, gain some knowledge. Maybe you can even make some money. And then when you figure it out, go do it. And so that was, for whatever you think about him, and I know he's very polarizing, but he does breed a spirit of entrepreneurism in that building that a lot of people end up following their dream to go be this full time. And I knew that it was time. I had the best job, but it was killing me every single day to go sit in that cubicle and be tied to that desk. I knew I had to go do something different.
So you circled the date on the calendar. Like February 13th, the night before, are you like, wait a second? Oh. And because I think we've got a lot of folks here trying to figure out, some folks might be in a day job, working on a side hustle. Some folks might have left already. Some people may be already in second, third venture. You've got a room full of folks that are at different stages of that journey. Talk to us a little bit about, still the fears that, even though you said it was inside of you all along, you knew you were going to have to do this from when you started, but still, I think there's probably some kind of fear or uncertainty. Was your wife like, hey, man, are you sure you want to do this? Like, what was just that? Bring us back to sort of 10 years ago this month.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever talked about this publicly. And I don't have, I say that like, oh, I talk about things publicly. I don't talk about things publicly. But it's something I'm getting more comfortable with. The end of the year rolls around, tax season. Typically, you're a W-2 employee. You get that W-2 end of January, right? And so I had received my W-2 from 2013 at the end of January, and in 2013. And I don't say this to brag. I say this for two reasons. One, it was I'm $700,000 in 2013, and am I going to walk away from that? My wife and I sat and did the math. We had seen steady growth year after year.
You had kids.
Kids, family. We had 3 at the time. We have 4 now. Kids like to eat. How many of you have kids right now? Do they like to eat? Do their pants get shorter every year? They grow up. They need different things. Yeah. And, to do that math and go, okay, our income is growing 20 to 25% consistently every year with rate increases, and we add new properties and we expand and we bring in new relationships. we knew we were on a path to financial success, but what was it costing me? What was it costing my wife for me to come home every day and not be able to enjoy my home life because, oh my gosh, I have to go do it again tomorrow. And it was terrifying, Sam.
Would it have been easier if you made half that amount, a fourth of that amount, a seventh of that amount?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know. Probably it would have been harder. I will say the income allowed us to, once we circled that date, we could build a runway. And so we could do some planning, figure out not only what are we even going to go do for a living?
Yeah, you had no idea at that point.
But we could have some safety net that, okay, we know we're going to be in the trenches for a while. And so in many ways, it could have been harder not being able to build that. Because once we circled the date and we were committed to it, it was all systems go. It was like, okay, what do we have to do to figure out when we get to that place? But walking into that office, Dave's office, on the 14th of February, 2014, outside of me asking my wife's father for his daughter's hand in marriage, and maybe the birth of my first child, it is the most nervous I've ever been in my entire life. I mean, the man took I was a derelict. I didn't know anything about anything, a college dropout with no real skills, soft or otherwise. And he gave me an opportunity, and I'm going to walk away from that. I'm going to say, I don't want to work here anymore. That was a hard conversation to have.
And so you leave without an idea. So how long does it take until you get that idea and launch it? Walk through that first, all right, here's what we're going to try. Here's the seeds of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so we actually did have the idea. When we circled that date, it was August or September of 2013 when we circled February 14th. And so we knew we had 6 months to figure it out. And I thought, okay, I can do anything for 6 months. I can go in, put on my happy face, give it my best. I wanted to leave well. That was important to me. But we did have 6 months to figure out, what are we going to do? I sought a ton of counsel. I mean, I've got a counselor still to this day. I might see him once a quarter now, but back then I was seeing him a couple times a week. And I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do? And he really encouraged me to figure out kind of what my strengths are, what my passions are, and how I could get those things to intersect. And so I'm not good at many things. The few things I am good at, I'm good at storytelling. I'm good at making relationships with people. Recommendations are really important to me. I have dear, dear friends who I would not recommend to my worst enemy that you do business with them, because that recommendation is super important. If I like a restaurant, I'm going to tell every single person I know about it. If I don't like it, I'm not the guy who's on Twitter roasting those people. But that was really important to me. Okay, how can I figure out how to do those things that I feel like I'm good at? And now, what am I passionate about? Okay, I'm passionate about small business. I'm passionate about the American South, the slowness of our culture. I'm passionate about those entrepreneurs who are trying to build their own thing every single day. And so we came up with this idea of the Made South subscription box, where we could buy their product at a wholesale rate, repackage it, you know the business, and then ship it out to people who said, oh, I also care about those things. And so we did. We launched that on January 19th and made it available for somebody to click a button and pay us money, which was one of the best days of my life, to actually have somebody I didn't know click that thing and say, yeah, I'll spend my money with you. That was insane to me. I'd never experienced that before. But we did. We gained 230 subscribers in our first 25 days before I walked in to tell Dave. So when I walked into him, it was with a good story of, man, this is what I'm going to go do. This is what I'm excited about. This is how I want to spend the rest of my life. And we've actually launched this thing, and it was a month ago, and it's a side hustle, but holy cow, people are spending money on it. So I had something that I knew I could immediately start working on as soon as I left there.
And so you jump into it, it's going, you got 230 subscribers. Walk us through those first year or so, ups, downs, all arounds, what that was like being an entrepreneur for the first time.
I did it extremely foolishly for the first year to 18 months. I'm a very social person. I love hanging out with people. I love cocktails too. And so that, you give a guy like me a ton of time freedom. I was hooking up with buddies 3 days a week. It's like, hey, are we going to have old fashions at lunch? Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't we do that? And so I didn't handle that newly found time freedom very wisely. And so that was, looking back, man, I wish I had that to do over. Although I learned that lesson, that's something that I won't go back to. Although the occasional Friday, if you want to hit me up, yeah, we'll be. So it was interesting trying to figure out my rhythm of being an entrepreneur, working out of my home. I didn't have an office. We homeschool our kids. We had 3 at the time when we did this, so our life was crazy. I mean, insane every day, slightly organized chaos in our home. So that was difficult. But then you talked about inventory. I mean, we were not a Birchbox of the world who had all of the systems and logistics in place. I'm dealing with very small makers and artisans from around the South who are selling leather goods or candles or chocolate bars or whatever. And so to organize with them, place that order, make sure that when we receive it, it's accurate. Okay, if it's barbecue sauce, how many of them broke in transit? If they did break, I have 237 subscribers. Guess what? I'm ordering 237 items. I'm not going to order 238. I'm a small business. Those pennies matter to me. And so to be on our ordering, and then when that box shows up, okay, 3 of them broke. My goodness, now we have to go back. There were a lot of manual things in place that we could not figure out automations for. We didn't have good systems. And so that was a struggle. And ultimately, I mean, my goodness, you've been in this business. I think back to shipping those 230 odd first boxes and, getting as soon as you process that shipping label, it generates an email to the customer. Hey, this is on the way. And how many of those emails came back like, oh, we moved. We moved 2 weeks ago. We placed the order a month ago. We moved. That box is gone. I'm never seeing that again. So my cost of goods for that just went out the window. I've got to reorder everything, repack it all, a lot of manual things. It was a very difficult business to be in.
And did you think at any point, like, okay, let me call Dave. Let me see if I can go back to.
It crossed my mind a few times. Yeah, for sure. There was, again, safety and security in that building. But no, it was a thrill to figure out those things every day. And I love to say, like, I don't know what I don't know. If I've never experienced the problem before, if I've never felt that pain, I've never had to solve for it. And so I do love that part of this life, that we do get to constantly add things to our toolkit. That's really exciting for me.
And so you mentioned Luke Duncan started a brand called Eli Mason, a single ingredient cocktail mix. And my former company was purchasing that as well. And I remember Luke one day said, hey, I think I'm going to sell the company. And I said, okay, congrats. A couple of days later, I get an email from Chris. Hey, I bought this company called Eli Mason. I was like, oh, I thought, okay, great. So why grow through acquisition? What was that process like? What did that entail? Because acquisition can be a form of entrepreneurship. So even you as a small business owner at the time, why do that versus, hey, now I've done it once. Let me just go start something else from scratch.
Yeah, the product had hooked me, and it fit very well with what we were already doing. And so I'll explain that a little bit. I mean, at the time, in 2017, we had done the boxes 14, 15, 16. We shut them down in December of 2016. Luke walked into my office in January of 2017. Now, I had not connected those things, but we had really shifted from the boxes to being an event business. And so we were seeing a lot of success with putting on these different events, inviting these makers to Franklin, participating, inviting guests in to actually meet these makers. We were seeing a lot of momentum with that. And when Luke walked in, Luke had been one of the makers who had been a part of our events. So I had seen people interact with the brand. I am a sucker for anything made in Nashville. I'm a sucker for old fashions. At the time, my wife had been teaching me about looking at the ingredients on things. And so I was like, okay, there's no high fructose corn syrup in this. It's all natural, nothing artificial. That was a good thing. And most importantly, like when I bought the first bottle that I saw on my local bottle shop shelf and took it home to try it, I made a cocktail for my wife. It was the first whiskey cocktail she ever enjoyed. And so she was like, that's really delicious. Make me another one of those. And I was like, I made a mental note of that. And so then invited him to come be a part of the events. I'd seen guests interact with the brand and how much they enjoyed it. And then when he walked in, I thought, okay, we're doing events cocktails are a part of every single event we do. We always want to welcome somebody with a drink. And so this makes a lot of sense. And the more he talked about it, you know, Luke has a complicated story. For those of you who don't know Luke, and I've talked to him many times since then. He is totally okay sharing these things. But his daughter, he saved up some money to start this brand, had this recipe, created this brand, launched this product, and then shortly, kind of into that move in his life, their daughter got cancer. And he said, man, when he walked into my office, he was like, hey, she's got clean scans now, which, by the way, she's a happy, healthy teenager today, thank the Lord. But when he walked in, he said, man, ever since that day that we found out, we spent our money to take care of her, and it's been like somebody has punched me in the stomach every single day. Plus, I'm trying to push this thing up and get it off the ground. And he said, my wife has just begged me, go back and get a 9-to-5. Do something that you can turn off at night and come home and be dad and husband. And so he was like, that's what I'm going to do. And it was a failing brand at that point. It was a very expensive hobby for Luke. And but I loved the brand. I thought it was an excellent product. And I saw some low-hanging fruit, some opportunity that I know some different people who I believe would be willing to carry this in their shops. And also I thought it was underpriced. It was undervalued. So it was basically an asset sale, and I saw an opportunity to turn that around and plug it into the things that we were already doing. So to me, it was really important that it was a natural fit for what we were already doing. It was a supporting brand.
And you're welcome to share numbers, but for the amount you paid versus where it is now, I assume you've seen a multiple return?
Absolutely. This is it's a weird thing. I believe, I was trying to figure this out the other day, in 2016, I think the brand did $45,000 in sales. It lost maybe $20,000 on that. He had a lot of inefficiencies. He was struggling with it. We bought the brand for $10,000, and today, last year it did $375K. Our net profit's 20%. I have 3 other partners, 3 other men who I love who are in that business with me, and it's none of our full-time jobs. So it's been a nice little supporting thing. But now we're searching, and we're really close on hiring that who can champion that brand and really take that and make it a real thing.
And so tell us real quick then about the start and evolution of Good Southerner, the sticker company, and then we're going to open up for some questions for folks about anything on Chris's journey.
Yeah. Are any of you familiar with this concept of family camp? Have you ever heard of this? Okay. All right. I'm the only weird guy in the room. So family camp is a concept where my wife and I take our kids to this camp in South Carolina for a week every year. And there are 25 different families that come together. Most of them are repeat, and they come back, and we get to know those people. And so we were there in 2018, and I noticed a guy in the room who was wearing a ball cap that said Tennessee Outfitters on it. And I was like, man, that's a good-looking cap. And I'm born and raised in Nashville. I've never lived anywhere other than Tennessee. I don't want to live anywhere other than Tennessee. And so I'm a sucker for Tennessee things, too. I was like, dude, that's a really good-looking ball cap. And so we started hitting it off. He and his family live in Cookeville. And so we just became friends. And they run coffee shops. At the time, we were doing events. And so we each had our own thing. But he's like me. Like, he's always just kind of thinking about fun things. And it is. I have 3 main freedoms that are important to me, why I do entrepreneurship. And one of them is the freedom of fun. I don't do things if I don't think they're going to be fun for me. I want to do fun things for a living. And so he and I would get together, we'd have coffee, catch up, get lunch, and we just started thinking like, man, I would say dadgummit a lot. My curse word is son of a gun. If I'm around my kids, that's my Christian curse word, son of a gun. And so he and I started talking. It was like, man, I would love to get a sticker that says son of a gun that I could put on my laptop or my truck. And he's a little bit of a graphic designer, and he was like, man, I could whip you up one of those. And so, great, do that. So he made this sticker. I love it. Still today, one of our best sellers, son of a gun. And we created, I was like, man, there may be something here. Like, let's just, fun little side hustle. Let's start a brand where we make these stickers that kind of collect all of these sayings and phrases that my aunt used to say, or my grandfather used to say, or my papa, or whoever. And we put them on a website. We had 10 or 12 designs to start. We put them on a website, just a quick and dirty Shopify site. And man, we thought people were going to buy the fire out of these stickers, and nobody bought these stickers. But the buyer at Loveless Cafe is a friend of mine. So she had seen me post about them on Instagram, and my phone rang, and she said, hey, these stickers, can you put me in touch with these people? And I was like, I'm those people. I'm those people. And she said, we would like to, can we carry these in our gift shop? And that thought had never crossed my mind. I was like, hey, let me call you back. So I called Jeremy, my partner on it, and said, Jeremy, Loveless Cafe wants to carry our stickers in their gift shop. He was like, what? So we had to figure out really quickly, like, okay, well, what's our pricing structure for that? We came up with it in 2 minutes over the phone. I called her back and said, okay, so these stickers are $3.50 retail. We're going to sell them to you for $1.75. She was like, great. How did they come in packs? Okay, they're going to come in packs of 10. I just made it up. Had no idea. And she was like, great, are all of these your designs on the website? Yes. I'm going to look through them. I'm going to send you an order here in a minute. Awesome. And like 5 minutes later, I had an order for $1,200 worth of stickers in my inbox. And I called Jeremy and I was like, I think we're thinking about this wrong. And so it just had never dawned on me to go that route. But immediately I was like, okay, I know Holly Williams. If some of you know Holly owns a White's Mercantile. I was like, I'm going to text Holly a picture of these stickers. And so I sent her a text and she said, oh my OMG, I'm obsessed. She did all the Holly language. If you know her, she gets really obsessed with things. And she was like, you're getting an email from me to all of my managers here in about 5 minutes. And at the time, this was early 2019. So White's had, 7 or 8 locations in the Southeast at that time. And so she sent the email, copied in her managers. And we got 5 or 6 more orders that day. And I thought, what is happening? Like, that is crazy to me. And so since then, we have focused squarely on finding those White's Mercantiles of the world. And we've grown that thing over the years. 4 years being in business now, that thing is in a couple thousand retail locations in 40 plus different states. We ship to London, we ship to Canada. It's a neat little brand and it's highly profitable. It's a ton of fun. But even over the last year, like, we've seen things start to level out because I'm the only guy doing it and I'm getting 4, 5, 6 hours a week. How can I expect it to be excellent, awesome, bigger, faster, stronger than it was last week if I'm just pushing it for 4 hours a week? That doesn't make any sense. The math doesn't work. And so we have really been intentional about trying to find the right people to come alongside us and champion these brands. And so we've hired our mutual friend, Heather Ainsworth. Heather is fantastic. She's just crushing it. She is getting our house in order. We are being a real thing, and she is finding kind of our 10X customer path. So we're really excited to have her involved.
That's awesome. Questions? What questions do you all have?
Absolutely none.
What was something that got you through the hard times? You're like, I don't know if this is feasible. Maybe I should have left. What kept your eyes on the prize?
Yeah. I'm really candid about this. I'm a man of faith. That's my operating principle. I'm a Christian. That's my North Star. That's the way I operate. So my faith is really, really super important to me. And my wife, she would make a place. She has done an awesome job of creating a home that it feels safe for me to fall in. And so I can go to the office, do the hard things, put out the fires, be really stressed out, and she is extremely supportive when I come home. So those are the 2 big things for me. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I certainly did. So that was a benefit that I had that maybe not everyone has access to. But yes, we did. We at the time had paid off our home, and so we had been investing in, the traditional 401k and Roths and things like that, and we turned all of that off, and we just started hoarding cash for a very short period of time because we knew we were going to have some really lean months. So yes, absolutely, we did that.
Before you did that, you knew when you were going to start, did you have goals or parameters in mind of, okay, if by month 6 we haven't made this, then cut our losses, let me go back and do something else?
No, we burn the ships. And I am personally persuaded that that's how we have to do it. If you're constantly thinking about your fallback system, I don't know that you're in the best mental place in order to try to make the headway you need to make. So I was convinced I was never going back to that life.
So how do you decide like which lanes you want to play in and also which lanes you don't? I'm sure you get some
Yeah.
interesting requests from
Yeah.
outrageous, whether it's political, whatever it is.
And what else have you done with Good Southern? Because I know a little bit about where else you've seen.
Yeah.
Where else can this design go that may or may not have worked?
We have certainly expanded into, we launched socks a couple of years ago, so we have a handful of kind of keystone designs in socks that are very profitable, very successful. We just launched a small collection of hats that are very well made, and I'm super excited about them. They're picking up traction right now. I'll tell you, it's been a struggle, candidly, for this brand, is that we always, when we try to do things that aren't stickers, we never see the momentum that stickers has for us. And we've not been able to put our finger on why that is, but we do keep trying things. I do think there are multiple opportunities with this brand. We have branched out into custom work, so we did not for a long time, we were very prideful, like, no, if you don't like our designs, we don't want to work with you. And then when Dolly Parton calls and says, hey, I want you to make some designs for me, yes, absolutely, we'll do that. So that has been a really interesting part of the business, and now we've done some for whites. We do a lot with Dollywood. Moon Pie is a very big customer of ours. So we do a lot of custom work for brands that we feel like are aligned with our brand. To answer your question, though, I evaluate things. To me, it has to be focused on small business, entrepreneurship. It has to be focused on the American South. If it's not those two things, and there are some other layers, like, do I really believe this is going to be fun? Who are the people there? Like, I have this thing, I don't want whiners in my life, because I have 4 kids at home. And so I get a ton of that at home. I don't want whiners in my professional life. So I get to be really choosy of people, who I get to work with. And if I'm not excited about working with them, if I don't think it's fun, if it doesn't have to do with the American South and small business, I don't do it. Yep. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Oh.
Do you have any businesses in the future any ideas for the future, anything that you would like to try, and how do you know when it's time to leave a certain business behind, a certain idea behind, and pivot and try something else rather than stick with it, hope it works, hope it grows?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are many other things that I've tried that did not work. And so I think if you're not failing, I don't know how the saying goes. If you're not failing, you're not learning, you're not growing. We had to try a lot of other things in order to dial in what did work and figure out what didn't work and avoid those mistakes in the future. Future ideas, I am an idea person. It's almost a curse. And for the first several years of my journey, I fell into this trap of thinking all my ideas are good. Does anybody else think all of your ideas are good? I see that, Ann. I thought all of my ideas were good. So, well, it's my business. I'm fast. I'm by myself. I can make the final call. I can make this work quickly. Let's just do it. And so I did all of them. And so for every 10 ideas we tried, maybe 3 or 4 of them worked, and the other 6 to 7 would cut the knees out from underneath the 3 or 4 that were working. So I had to figure out how to get some wise counsel around me, people in my life who I could really get some feedback from on these things to figure out, punch holes through, figure out, is this really a good idea that I want to pursue? Does it fit with who I am? Do I think it's going to be fun? And so we've become more selective over the things that we do over the years. Future ideas, I keep a list of them. I'm not going to be the person to do them. I'm not. I may find the right people to partner with on things, but I feel very strongly that for the first time in 10 years, I've sort of identified my professional calling, which is walking alongside other people who are on this path. People who were sitting in my seat 10 years ago, who were safe and comfortable, wanted to go do this thing, but had absolutely no idea, no guide, no assistance, no counsel in order to do this. And I wish I had had that. And so I'm trying to be that person for the person I was 10 years ago. And I feel very called. I do believe in my heart that bars, restaurants, hotels, that they have a monopoly on the term hospitality. And I'm tickled for it. I have a lot of friends in that world. I love them to death. I am convinced every single business in this room can be a hospitality business. And I believe And I go so far as to say Southern hospitality is a superpower that can transform any life, any business. I believe that in my heart. And so I want to talk more about that. I want to help companies figure out ways to engage with their customers and their teams and their leadership in a more hospitable way, because I believe it can transform businesses and lives. And so I'm moving into this next season of getting those words out of my brain in a way that I can communicate them clearly to other people, walking alongside other people who are on this path. I have this, I'm not a good writer, but I know I have this book inside me to talk about this idea that I believe can transform lives. And so I want to get that out of me. So that's where I'm focusing my time. I have a ton of ideas, and I love when people come to me with ideas. And there are ways I think we could partner with good people to do things, but I cannot be that operator anymore. It's just not my strength. Yeah.
Let's do one more question here, and then Chris will hang around afterwards.
Yeah,
So if you didn't get to ask
absolutely.
something or think of something, by all means, he'll be hanging out. So last one.
So, some entrepreneurs kind of trust their gut and just go with whatever pops into their head. And,
Yeah.
you know, leave all behind and just go straight for it. Others spend a meticulous amount of time planning and trying to ensure they have a high probability of success. They go ahead and do that. Which camp do you find yourself into more of the go and big adjustments as you go along, or plan meticulously, and then once they realize that there's something there, they go.
Yeah, I lean more in the first camp. I'm a gut guy. I don't think it's entirely wise to be that exclusively. So I am trying to get better at talking to more people, getting better perspectives, bringing people in who I feel like can bring a different perspective, shoot holes in things. I do think there's value in data, there's value in research, a ton of value. But I do think if you lean too far that way, you can get into this place where you're just, okay, ready, aim, aim, aim some more, aim. We have to pull that trigger at some point. So we have to act, we have to ship the product, we have to get the product, the service out there for people to actually engage with in order to learn how they engage with it and get better and make the thing grow. So I lean more towards that first camp. I've always been that guy, but acting exclusively out of that area in me ended up with that mentality of like, all my ideas are good. Oh, this feels like a good idea. Well, let's just do it. And I don't think that's entirely wise.
Round of applause for Chris.
Oh,
Please.
y'all are very kind. And thank you, Sam.
Of course.
Let me say this really
go for it.
really quickly. So I had the opportunity, it was probably 15 years ago, Michael Burcham had invited myself and one other guy that I was in, he was one of our clients, Mike Hardwick at Churchill Mortgage. So Michael invited Mike and myself to come meet with him at some building down here. I don't think this was here yet 15 years ago. I don't know. So I don't think it was here, but I was very impressed with him, started following his journey. This is an important place, and it has had some really wise stewards over the year, Michael being one of them. But I would love to just tell you publicly, like, you're perfect for this.
Thank you.
This guy right here has a good heart. He comes from a good place in how he interacts with people. I've seen it personally. He cares about small business. He cares about entrepreneurship. And I just watching from afar, this is where you're supposed to be. I think you're in your rhythm right now.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Appreciate you saying that, and appreciate you coming out today. We've got awesome events coming up, so you can see all of these at ec.co/events. But in this room next week, so every Thursday we have something going on. First Thursday of the month, Cereal with Cereals. Second Thursday of the month is Lunch and Learn. Next week, a very important topic. We're talking about mental health. And so we'll have a panel discussion with 2 experts and practitioners in the space. So if you have ever thought about your mental health as an entrepreneur, come participate in that discussion. It is just the first, I can assure you, on this topic. Next Monday, we're going to feature some entrepreneurs in one of our current accelerator programs, Pre-Flight. So that'll be a fun evening. And then we also, the third Thursday of every month is a happy hour. The fourth is a free co-working day. So if you're not a member at the co-work level or you have friends and want a place to just check it out, feel free to do that. We've still got cereal. Chris is going to hang out. Lauren has one more announcement as well.
Yes, and we want to hear from you. So we are going to send you a survey after this event, so we can hear what you thought about today, ideas you have, and almost most importantly, what cereal you were missing this morning. Sam, anything else?
I don't think so. We appreciate you guys being here. Keep hanging out.
Can I say one more thing really
Yeah,
quick? Really quick. I'm sorry. So I just saw Clark Buckner back there. I see this face, and I leaned over to say, "Is that Clark?" And I remember Clark. Do you remember us meeting? Yeah. You participated. I think I'm right in the Churchill Mortgage Entrepreneurship Competition, right? And I remember being so impressed with this. I mean, he was a kid who walked in with this idea. I don't even remember what the idea was, but I remember thinking like, oh man, that dude's gonna go somewhere. And so to look over today and see your face, I thought that was fun.
You're still here. Awesome. Thank you guys again. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.